Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. I'm very, very excited to be here with you to present our topic, Leading with Second Step, a Getting Started Guide for K-5 Principals. We are so happy to be able to provide this getting started for those of you that are delivering the Second Step program, but also for those of you who might be considering the program. This will be a great guide for you as well to see how things can get started for you and your school or district. So first I'm going to just go through the agenda really quickly. We're going to do some introductions and a little bit of history about Committee for Children. We're going to do just a really little brief bit about social emotional learning during our session today and the basics there. A little brief overview of the Second Step program as well. And then we're going to really get into the meat of what we're talking about today in school-wide social emotional learning and principal tasks and resources to help principals get started. We will also just do a really quick look at an implementation case study at the very end and then leave time for question and answer. My name is Jennifer Sanderlin. I am a Senior Education Partnerships Manager with Committee for Children, and I'm here today with my colleague Juliet, who will introduce herself in a moment. In my role, I work to help schools and districts look at social emotional learning, bullying prevention, and child abuse prevention. I'm also a former teacher and an after-school and early learning nonprofit director. So many years of experience. The thing I get to do that I love the most, though, in this job is just working directly with our providers, people that are delivering the lessons and out there in schools. So I'm very excited that you're all here today. I'm also very excited that Juliet can join us. She is an expert in our organization and around the country, and so we're very happy to have her joining today for this topic in particular. Juliet, you want to say hi?
Thanks, Jen. Hi, I'm Juliet Candle. I'm the Implementation and Training Manager here at Committee for Children and have just very happily celebrated my 15th anniversary here. My role is to work with districts and schools around the country to understand what it is that adults need in order to make the best use of our programs so that children actually benefit in the end. And part of the way that I do that is interacting with folks in the field, understanding what they need, and then bringing that information back to our office so that we create implementation resources that are useful and meaningful for the people using our programs out in the field. So I'm delighted to be here and look forward to sharing some information that I've learned from other districts as well as from my work here.
Great. Well, thank you, Juliet. We look forward to that. So let me just give you a little bit of context and information about who we are. Committee for Children is a nonprofit based in Seattle, Washington, with a mission to foster the safety and well-being of children through social emotional learning. We are pioneers leading the field with our uniquely comprehensive approach that Juliet's going to talk a lot more about, how all of the things we have as resources can fit together. We use solid research and connections to experts in the field to bring resources to schools and districts that make a difference in the lives of students and communities. We're also a force in advocacy, helping to pass policies and legislation to support SEL, bullying prevention, and child protection at the state and federal level. So we are very proud, being founded in 1979 to help victims of child sexual abuse. We have nearly 40 years of impact with programs that reach more than 14 million children each year in over 70 countries worldwide and in all 50 states. We are very proud to reach this many children and to impact communities around the world. We know, though, that we couldn't do that at all without the dedicated educators that deliver the programs each and every day. So I want to just thank you, those of you that are delivering our lessons and implementing our programs in your schools, or you're hoping to. All of those efforts really help make our mission a reality. We definitely couldn't do it without you. So what we do, Committee for Children is really best known for Second Step, our social emotional learning program, Not Just Better Students, Better People is really a suite of programs that provide a cohesive foundation for safe and supportive learning environments with socially, emotionally competent students and a positive school climate. We're going to talk a lot more about Second Step, of course, today. Also want to mention that we created a program, Mind Yeti, which is a program for K-5 children and their adults, so parents or teachers, really anyone that's in contact with kids around that age group can benefit. Mind Yeti is a program to help build mindfulness practice that can help calm, focus, and support SEL skills in the classroom and at home. So we're going to focus on getting principal leadership and getting principals started for the Second Step for K-5 students in this webinar, but you can find specific in-depth webinars on our Second Step suite, the bullying prevention unit, our middle school program, and of course the Mind Yeti program in the same place that you registered for this one. We also have recorded versions in our on-demand section as well, so please join us for one of the other webinars to learn more. The last thing I want to share about Committee for Children, just to help give you a little bit, if you're not familiar with our history, since we began making our programs in 1981 with talking about touching, in that nearly 40 years, a lot has happened. Many people ask why our program is called Second Step, so I'll just give you the really quick version. The reason the program is called Second Step is because as an organization, Committee for Children first began our work in studying the effects of child abuse and child sexual abuse and developing that program talking about touching you may have seen before. Once we launched that program to help prevent abuse from happening to kids, we wanted to prevent children from growing up to become abusers themselves by building skills like empathy, self-regulation, and managing emotions, among others. So our first step was to help what was happening to kids now, and our second step was to help prevent it from happening in the future. So after talking about touching and Second Step were created and revised over the years, we also wanted to pinpoint and teach skills that would help kids as they face a different type of abuse, which is bullying. So Steps to Respect was created to help address bullying. So you may have seen these materials out, or maybe even still have them in your buildings. They're very widely used, well-loved, and still very good programming. You'll see the black and white cards and the VHS tapes. So we've definitely done a lot of work over the years to revise and create our newest editions. And we decided that as we were revising that many schools wanted to address all three issues and really bring a comprehensive approach, which brings us to the Second Step suite, which is our social emotional learning, bullying prevention, and child protection program or unit. So that's a look at those materials, and you can see the colorful posters and the puppets for the younger ones, some CDs and DVDs, so very interactive and kid-friendly materials. So before we get to our main topic, I do want to give you just a quick overview of the Second Step program itself for those of you that are not familiar. We're hoping that most of you that are joining us today are familiar and are either getting started now or hope to soon. So just a little bit of background, but I want to just again give a plug. If you wanted to get more in-depth with the topics and understand how the lessons work and some of the resources online, we're not going to cover it too in-depth today, so please do sign up for another webinar in the future that would give you a lot more of that in-depth information. So the Second Step program is designed to be a universal classroom-based program. So when I say universal, what I really mean by that is that it's intended for all students, not just those that are, showing obvious deficit in that area, but that all students can benefit from additional skill training and practice and really just integrating social emotional learning skills into the things that they do. So really, even kids that have high social emotional learning skills can continue to grow those over time and really help to be a model in the classroom and just help create a positive learning environment. So the program is designed for teachers to teach in classrooms. Certainly counselors do push in and teach it sometimes, but it is designed at that Tier 1 level. And it's designed to promote social emotional competence, of course, and at the same time also hone in on self-regulation, so skills that can help kids to monitor and manage their thoughts and their behaviors, their decisions. Really getting a chance to practice those executive function skills that help make good decisions in the classroom. So if you've seen our previous editions, we really took some time with the current edition to focus in on self-regulation. Those two areas are really designed to help decrease problem behaviors as well as to increase student school success specifically. We want these type of skills to be used for, in all parts of a student's life, whether it's at school or at home or in the community, wherever they may be. Obviously, they're in school a lot of the time, so this is a really good opportunity to give them a chance to use these skills and to use them to increase their academic achievement, but also just their success in school and in that environment. So here's a look at the program topics and skills for K through 5. We have 4 main units, starting with skills for learning. And skills for learning really just means those learning to learn skills and those skills that you would use in the classroom to be successful. Things that teachers are often starting with at the beginning of the school year already. This gives a nice research and evidence-based way of bringing that same information to all of your students and having everyone build a common language around what does it mean to be a good learner and how do we treat each other in the classroom. We then move into empathy and then emotion management and problem solving, taking time to help them to understand, what is empathy and how can we express that, learning to manage emotions, all strong emotions, not just negative ones. Can be excitement and other things that are happy ones that still get in the way of learning. And then problem solving skills using a framework that can help them to solve problems as if they were a puzzle to be solved, that once they could calm those emotions down, then they can access the thinking part of the brain and solve problems in a really logical and methodical way. We do also have our additional units. We're not going to talk about these today, but again, another plug for a different webinar. Please join us. We have our bullying prevention unit and our child protection unit, and both of those are designed to fit within the Second Step program using the SEL portion as a foundation for those skills that they could learn on bullying and child abuse prevention. So just a really quick look at the lessons here. I know it's kind of tiny writing, but you can get a sense of how that lesson is formatted and designed. This is a lesson for grade 3. The lessons are fully scripted and they are explicit instruction. They're meant for teachers to really just be able to sort of pick up the lesson, give it a good read through, maybe try out the scripting on their own, but that it really you could plan for that in a really brief amount of time. It doesn't take much for a teacher to plan and prep and get ready to teach those lessons. There are 22 to 25 lessons for each grade level, designed to be taught once a week. And they're between 20 and 40 minutes, so we just kind of say roughly 30 minutes that you would do the lesson once a week. I'm going to show you here in a second some other activities that can be done to extend that learning and make sure they're practicing those skills. As I mentioned, the lesson planning notes are included. There are really engaging activities for skill practice. It's a social program, so it's definitely not going to be a lot of work where students are, doing handouts and, multiple choice kinds of questions, but it's an interactive and active kind of program to really practice skills in a context of a social setting. There are also some academic integration activities though as well that help to bring social emotional learning into the content, the other things that you might be teaching in the classroom, so that SEL can become a part of the things that they're practicing in almost everything that they're doing and learning. So we do have some resources. My last 2 slides before we jump into the getting started for principals is around reinforcing and the resources that we have to help make sure the program is successful and that kids are really getting the dosage and the fidelity of the program to the best that it can be done. And so we've designed what we call following through activities, and you can see also here in this screenshot hopefully it's not too small, the days 1 through 5 activities that we've created. So day 1 would be the lesson, and then the rest of the days there are just some short activities that teachers can do in the classroom and they can do them very easily during transitions and times when it makes the most sense for that topic for that week. So you want to practice in the moment really as much as possible. We also have a homework component that's really more of a take-home activity. We call them home links, and they're meant for students to practice the skills at home with their families, with their family members. So they're meant to be an interactive activity versus, practicing vocabulary, that sort of thing. At the same time, it's also a big help in making sure your families know what their child is learning, and to hopefully have parents and family members starting to use these same skills at home. We do have some resources that help families to understand what their child's learning and be able to use those same strategies. The calm down steps or the problem solving steps can very, very easily be used at home and hopefully help parents in some of those and families to help their child learn those skills, especially if they're struggling. So we also have some reflective writing assessments and academic integration activities that I already mentioned, just to keep SEL as a part of what you're doing all the time. The last thing I wanted to touch on is our resources we have on secondstep.org. We really look at it as a resource center for those that are delivering the lessons and for those that are leading the charge, such as principals. And Juliet's going to go over a lot more of these resources, but I do want to mention, because it comes up a lot, for those that maybe have the program and haven't taken the time to register on secondstep.org. Each of the kits has a code that gives you access to all of the resources. If you haven't taken the time, or you know that your teachers haven't, or you're just getting started, that is going to be a big part of getting them on board and getting them what they need. And Juliet's going to talk a little bit more about that. What we have online for those delivering the lessons, though, that it's kind of a big deal and we're very happy to have now, is our streaming media. What I mean by that is that all of the videos and songs and photos and things that you would have on those CDs and DVDs are now online. So teachers can just log in, pull up the video, and play it straight from their computer and put it on a bigger screen or whatever it is that they want to do with that media. So if you don't have DVD players, not to worry. That's all included in a part of the program. We do also have some video examples and classroom demonstrations to help teachers to see how lessons are taught and to learn some of the strategies. We also have all of the programs from early learning to grade 5 translated into Spanish, so that includes the lessons themselves, so that is free and a part of the program. If you haven't accessed those yet, it's very simple to do that. There's an English-Spanish toggle button. You just click it back and forth to whatever it is you need. And that includes all the family-facing materials as well. So if that's important to you and Spanish would be helpful, I hope you'll access those online. We have the staff training resources, teaching and implementation tools that Juliet's going to talk a little bit more about, and then we've got family resources and tools to engage families. All right, so with that, I'm going to turn this over to Juliet, and we'll get started with school-wide leadership.
Thanks, Jen. So now that you have a foundational understanding of what the program looks like and what some of the resources are for the classroom level implementation, I get to talk with you about school-wide leadership and how do you bring this program and these skills and strategies from being just in the classroom to being a school-wide effort that supports school-wide language for the various skills that Jen described, problem solving and emotion management, for example, and really bringing this to a school-wide level. So the things that we'll cover in this section are, first of all, how to register online so that you can get access to a wide variety of implementation and support materials. We'll talk about training and supporting staff in implementing the program, and motivating and preparing. So we'll start with registering online. If you haven't already created an online account at secondstep.org, there are two different ways that you can do that as a principal. On the left, you'll see the green sheet that says Start Here. That is the first page of the teacher's manual that comes with each kit. And The activation key that you see next to the number 2 is a unique activation key for that kit. In this case, it's a grade 3 kit. Now, again, each classroom curriculum kit has an activation key. And so you can go to any of your teachers and at each grade level, write down one of these activation keys for each grade level, because multiple people can register under one activation key. So once you write those down, you can go to secondstep.org, enter that key, and then you'll have access to all of the resources for that particular grade level. The other option for accessing the online materials is if you have a principal toolkit, which is a supplementary resource that's available for people who are using the Second Step program. If you have a principal toolkit, you'll see again the first page has these quick start steps and include the activation key for that principal toolkit. One of the benefits of this activation key is that once you register this one single key, it gives you access to all the resources for grades K through 5. So those are your two options for registering online at secondstep.org to get access to the implementation materials that are there. And just again to walk you through that, the first step is to go to secondstep.org, and you'll see this second arrow that is pointing to create account. So if you don't already have an account at secondstep.org, you would create an account and then add that activation key. If you do already have an account, you would just add an additional activation key within your account. Once you've created your account and then you enter into the secondstep.org password protected content, you will see that there are 5 tabs across the top of this page. Again, this is grade 3, which you'll see in the top right. You'll see the tabs are teachers and counselors, program coordinators, families, training, and community. The place where you will find the bulk of the implementation support tools that we're going to cover today is under program coordinators. And when you go there, you'll also click on Implement and Implementation Tasks, which will bring you to this page. This is the page where we really address the systemic implementation needs of schools and districts. And you'll see that there are 6 distinct implementation tasks: motivate, prepare, train, support, validate, and sustain. Of course, as a school leader, any initiative that you are working on requires these steps. And so I would imagine that these are very familiar concepts for all of you and procedures that you go through. So what we'd like to do is walk you through some of the first implementation steps that you'll face as a principal who is implementing our Second Step Social Emotional Learning program. The first steps the steps that we'll address today in this Getting Started webinar are motivate, prepare, train, and support. And we are keenly aware here at Committee for Children of the key role of buy-in and motivation for implementing social and emotional learning. So we understand this is a really important piece, and it's a piece that the principal has a whole lot of sway in making happen. So we have created a number of resources that will help you to get this buy-in and motivation among staff, among families, and among students. For staff, of course, the goal is to introduce social emotional learning and to motivate folks to understand and realize that, first of all, this is a priority that your school has chosen to take on, and that it's foundational to academic success for students. Students have to feel safe and secure in order for their brains to be receptive to any academic learning that they're going to do. So the resources we have available are, we have an overview video of the program. There is an overview PowerPoint presentation that you can customize and present to your staff. Within the Principal Toolkit, that's what the PTK reference is here. There are some staff orientation sessions that are all scripted out, and the materials for those are also there. And we also have an implementation preparedness survey that will help with sort of assessing where is your staff with regard to their motivation and buy-in for doing this work, and what are some areas that you might want to address in order to increase that motivation. For families, We have a family overview PowerPoint presentation that is very useful for curriculum night or any kind of a gathering that you have with parents. There are family letters within the program that are both in English and in Spanish. And within the Principal Toolkit, there's some additional family communications. And finally, for students, how do we motivate them and get them engaged with this work? Well, of course, you begin teaching the lessons. Maybe before that, you have some sort of a kickoff event. Many schools put the Second Step posters in common areas around the school, and that provides an opportunity for reinforcement, both more passively as students go by and see those, but also in a very explicit way. If an adult is with a student in the hallway and there's an issue, they can use point to the skills right there to walk them through the skills they need to resolve that issue. We also have within the Principal Toolkit morning announcements that align with the various units that are in the program. I mentioned a moment ago the Implementation Preparedness Survey. Again, this is a tool that you would use after you've done an orientation session or some training around the program, and it gives your staff an opportunity to let you know if they do understand the goals and objectives of the program, if they believe that these goals will benefit their students, etc., whether they have the resources they need to carry out their part of the implementation. So this is a great tool to get a snapshot of where your staff are with regard to their interest in and support for this program. Another resource that we have is a video called What and Why Social Emotional Learning. And this is a video, again, that is a nice basic piece of information to help with creating context for this work and to help folks become more motivated to do the work. So we're just going to share that video now.
There's a lot of talk these days about SEL, Social Emotional Learning. But what exactly is it? Social emotional learning is the process of learning social and emotional skills, and it's just as important as learning reading or math. This learning process is most effective when it begins early and continues through high school. Social emotional skills are essential for success in school, work, and life. With SEL, students learn to manage their own emotions and behaviors, have empathy and show care and concern for others, solve problems effectively, make responsible decisions, and maintain healthy relationships. Students learn to recognize what's happening inside them and to be aware of their emotions, which helps them deal with strong emotions and impulsive behaviors. It helps them stop, take a breath, and think about a situation before acting. Students learn to identify others' emotions and perspectives, which helps them empathize and show compassion, no matter who they are or what their background is. It's not difficult to imagine how this is important in the classroom and in life. Students learn to solve problems in peaceful ways and communicate assertively about what they need or want. This helps them get along with other students and get the help they need from adults. When students learn to make responsible decisions about their lives and their future, things can turn out better. Research shows social emotional learning makes a difference. Students who participate in SEL do better academically, have improved attitudes and behaviors, and act in delinquent or disruptive ways less often. In the United States, students with strong social-emotional competence are twice as likely to earn a college degree and nearly 50% more likely to graduate from high school and have a full-time job by age 25. Just as important, students who are socially and emotionally competent have more friends. This means they're more likely to feel connected to school and do well, and less likely to be left out or bullied. Simply put, by participating in social-emotional learning, students learn the skills to succeed in every facet of school and the rest of their lives.
So I hope that video was useful to you. We find that a lot of people use it. to set the stage for social and emotional learning. It is on our YouTube channel and easily accessible. And if you have any issue with finding it, please contact us. We'll be sure to point you to that resource. One of the really valuable partners that we have in this field of social and emotional learning is CASEL, the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning. They are a private nonprofit organization, an objective think tank that looks at and researches the connection between social emotional learning and academic outcomes. So they have identified these 5 areas of social and emotional learning that are the 5 core competencies in our field. And you'll see the circles around these competencies recognize that these skills can both be taught and reinforced and used in daily life in all the domains of a child's life. So in the classroom level, we see SEL curriculum, such as the Second Step program, curriculum and instruction. And of course, we want to look at that in terms of being a Tier 1 strategy that is used throughout with every student, as Jen said previously, and that it's taught with high quality and it's taught with high fidelity so that we can assure the outcomes that we're hoping for. School-wide practices and policies obviously come into play, and then for homes and communities, family and community partnerships, and again, we have family resources to help support that work. The Second Step program stands in strong alignment with the CASEL competencies, and this slide just is visual to help you see where those alignment points are. We're very dedicated to aligning with the work that's in the field that's been done, and you'll see the various elements of the Second Step program listed under each of these different competencies. And of course, as a basic concept, SEL in schools is designed to promote social and emotional skills, to increase positive classroom behavior, and to increase and promote academic achievement. The program is designed to prevent conduct problems, aggressive behavior, and emotional distress. And not just the Second Step program, but all of your SEL strategies as a whole are designed to do this work. There are also benefits of SEL on school climate as a whole. So again, when we make sure that things are going well in the classroom with the program, and then attend to the school-wide strategies and efforts that then can help promote a positive school climate. So social emotional learning helps students form healthy relationships with their peers and teachers, which of course would reduce the number of issues and conflicts that you're going to have coming to the office, for example. Students with good social skills build connections to school, which is an important piece of even just the basics of attendance and wanting to be there. Classrooms with socially skilled students are calmer, and social skill competence helps students cope with challenges. One of the great things that CASEL has done for our field is a large meta-analysis where they looked at more than 200 studies of best practice social emotional learning programs being implemented in schools. And across those more than 200 studies, these are some of the findings, including a 23% gain in social emotional skills, which is a great benefit, 9% gain in attitudes about themselves, others, and school. And you'll see in bold here an 11% gain in academic achievement, which is a huge finding and something that I think resonates for a lot of people in education. And I just want to take a step back here and address an issue with motivation and buy-in with social emotional learning that I think is really important. Certainly in my years working in the field and being out in districts and schools, I've seen the whole range of educators and their bent toward or not toward social and emotional learning. So there are some educators for whom this is absolutely second nature. They just have a sort of an innate understanding that social and emotional learning is at the core of everything we do, educating people as well as living in our private lives. And so for them, it's not a leap to take the time to do social and emotional learning in the classroom or at the school level. There are other folks for whom academics come first, that's it, and this whole idea of social emotional learning feels like a sideshow or an extra thing. And so given the fact that as school leaders, you have to probably manage that whole continuum of approaches and thinking about social emotional learning, that's the reason that we're sharing all of these resources with you, is so that you can pick and choose from these resources to take them forward and help to move the needle a bit on helping your educators understand why this is a priority for you and your school and perhaps your district. And then, of course, your families are really critical stakeholders in this work, and we do offer on the secondstep.org website with your activation key, we do offer a family overview PowerPoint presentation that you can customize. You can put in your own school data about perhaps attendance and office referrals and why you think this is an important need. If you've done any kind of a school climate survey, you can put some of that in there and then use this presentation to help families see that you are addressing this issue in part through the Second Step program. Okay, moving to another implementation task, which is the prepare task. These are some really core things, just activities that need to happen. One is obviously to secure the materials, including the classroom curriculum kits, the hallway posters, as you're thinking about broadening out to a whole school implementation, and then the principal toolkit, which again is a supplementary item that you can purchase to support your school-wide efforts with Second Step. And then just sort of as a checklist, you'll want to make sure as you're getting started to schedule time for these following stakeholder buy-in activities, including staff orientation to Second Step, the online teacher training, which is an individual online training that teachers complete that take a maximum of 90 minutes. Teachers can stop and start and do that at the pace that works for them. You want to schedule time for the family orientation session. And finally, the weekly school-wide lesson delivery time, which is also a critical piece. We find that the schools that have the highest engagement and the most sustainable implementations are those that actually schedule a Second Step time into the week. And that is for a variety of reasons. One is that it makes sure that all staff understand that, yes, this is a priority and an expectation at the school. It creates that very designated time so that this isn't something that falls by the wayside if a week gets overwhelming for someone or someone, something comes up and you're running out of time that week that you just can't squeeze it in. Often, because it's not part of the core academics, it's the thing that gets set aside for that week. So just having some sort of a plan for a pacing guide for your school is an important piece. Many schools actually just say every Tuesday at 9 o'clock, everyone's doing Second Step. And that way, everyone knows this is the expectation. This way, the students all know that all of the adults are participating in Second Step and will expect them to have the skills and strategies when they encounter them. It gives the principal an opportunity to know exactly when they can go and observe Second Step lessons throughout the school. Others choose a Second Step day. So maybe Tuesday is Second Step day, and they use the morning announcements that are in the principal toolkit to kick off that day with announcements and acknowledging that it's a day. I know several schools that have actually written songs that they use on Second Step Day during the announcements, which is a very sweet and engaging way to set the stage for the lessons. And then to just ask teachers to show you on their schedule at what time during that particular day that they'll be doing it so that you can, again, be available to or know when you can go and observe lessons, for example. And then finally, setting up school-wide skill reinforcement plans, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Training your teachers, I just wanted to show you what this looks like on secondstep.org. You'll see that there's the training tab at the top, and then the go to the training is right there. And again, it's an online individual training that teachers can do to orient them to the program and the various elements of each lesson and how it's taught. The support implementation task is multifaceted. Support comes from the principal. Support can also come from other areas. But with regard to the principal's role, and we all know that the principal's role in supporting and constantly making this effort visible as a priority in the school is an absolute key to sustainability. So you'll want to plan for regular second step check-ins, and at staff meetings that might be a 3-minute moment where you just ask, how did the lesson go this week? Or does anyone have a story to tell about your second step lesson? Often you'll get some really interesting anecdotal stories from your teachers. Another time to reinforce that second step is a priority at your school is to insert some content into team planning times. Again, in the principal toolkit, there are some small brief activities that can be used during that time to orient folks to various aspects of the program and to also remind them of the language. Support can come in the form of observing lessons and just going in, asking the students what they're learning. And co-teaching lessons is one of my favorites. I've encountered many principals who find that to be a very valuable activity. It helps them to understand the language and the concepts that are part of the program that the students are learning. And it can also be a support to teachers. Maybe some of your teachers are finding it a little challenging to discuss social and emotional issues if that's not their natural bent. And so if you come in and co-teach with them, they can see a model of how that might be done. The other benefit is if you say to a teacher, hey, I'd like to co-teach your next second step lesson, which lesson are you on? That's a little bit of a heads up and a way for you to check and see if everyone is together in their pacing of doing the lessons. And finally, another way to support this school-wide language is during office referral conversations. You can use those conversations on secondstep.org under the resources. We have printable PDFs of the second step posters. So you could print some 8.5 by 11 copies of our program posters and have those in your office as a reference for these conversations so that when a problem comes to your attention, students are hearing the exact same strategies and skills that they're learning in their classrooms. We also have created a tool within the Principal Toolkit called the Talk It Over tool. The Talk It Over tool looks like this item that's on the far right of this image. It's an A-frame stand-up tool that on one side, the side that the adult is looking at, has scripting for walking through a variety of different social emotional skill areas that may have contributed to the situation that brought the student to your office. It also uses restorative practice language, so if you're using restorative practices, it's a very nice alignment with that and a support for those efforts. The side facing the student has a picture of the poster that they have seen in their classrooms, and so it gives you the opportunity to walk them through those skills that are shown in the posters. The other things that are in the Principal Toolkit include scripted all-staff orientations, which I've mentioned, staff meeting activities, these little brief staff meeting activities that are just a way to educate staff as to the content of the program, but also to keep the program visible and as a high priority for your school. There are weekly morning announcements. There are scripts for school assemblies, again, to help support the school-wide effort, and the office referral conversation guide, which is the Talk It Over tool that we discussed. The brief staff orientation meetings look like this. They're fully scripted. The first one takes 20 minutes. The second one is a 10-minute session. And within the Principal Toolkit, there are monthly themes and weekly skills. Each monthly theme has a staff kickoff meeting agenda and a student assembly. So those are monthly activities. And then for each week, there's a morning announcement, a brief staff meeting activity, and a suggestion for noticing and reinforcing the skill for that week. Also, there are online resources connected with the Principal Toolkit, including some family communications and some blurbs for staff and family newsletters. So you'll see that those are also there. All right, so those are some of the resources that are available to you to help you lead and drive a school-wide strategy with the Second Step program, and it's such an important piece of this work and sustainability. One of the big joys of my work here is realizing that as a nonprofit organization, we are absolutely mission driven, And my role is completely mission driven in that I get to help people figure out what to do with this stuff once you have it and how to make it really meaningful for your schools. And so it's been my pleasure to share this information with you. And now I'll turn it back to Jen.
Great. Thank you so much, Juliet. I think you just hit the nail on the head when you said that, just really the driver here is having a good awareness of what's available and principals to have what they need to lead the charge at their schools. When we see this happen, it is truly impactful, not just for us because we see, our work coming to fruition, but for really the change that can happen in a school. It's pretty remarkable, and having these resources available for you, I hope will really help. We made a lot of effort to make sure that the program was easy for teachers to deliver so it wouldn't feel like that extra thing. And truly, the work that our team, including Juliet, in creating the Principal Toolkit was really to help do the same thing. So it doesn't feel like we're adding to your plate as an administrator or leader in the school, but that we're making it easier for you to actually, make this all happen among the many, many things that you are doing on a daily basis. So the last part of our presentation today, I really just wanted to highlight, just so you kind of have a general idea of some of the ways that the program can impact schools. We were able to do a series previously for principals that included a presentation by a principal from Atlanta Public Schools and Scott Elementary, Principal Longley. And he was absolutely fantastic in that presentation. And so what we were able to take from that experience in working with him and working directly with Atlanta Public Schools with their social emotional learning initiative as a whole, which included Second Step but was not just Second Step. Second Step was a part of the activities they were doing. It was an integral and a foundational part, really kind of the anchor that was helping them to create a structure, but that they could then expand from. So I want to just give you a little picture of how it went for getting started at Scott Elementary. Some of the things that we heard and learned from Principal Longley was that they had started, when we did this presentation, they had year one and then year two. And in year one, when they started delivering the program, they didn't have necessarily hard and fast goals. They really put it out there as, here's a resource and we want to get started with it. Of course, there was a variety of levels of comfort and motivation with it. Kind of as Juliet was saying, you really have people that are ready to go, and then you have people that have no idea what this is and how important it could be, and everything in between. And Principal Longley spoke about how they just sort of said, we're going to get started and we're going to see what happens. And in year one, what they found along the way was that they delivered the lessons. They had kind of a break. They had like a fall break and then some testing or something of that nature. And when they came back, they really kind of lost their flow and they didn't deliver the lessons for a few weeks. And what happened was that the staff saw the changes that were happening and that the gains they had made in the skills actually went backwards. And so it was sort of a good real life way of seeing that, hey, you know what, this actually is helping us and it's working. So he didn't really have to re-motivate them. They sort of were motivated themselves because they could see that the skills, they needed to go back to really teaching those skills explicitly. So they did see a really positive shift, and he got to talk a lot about that. And we learned that the positive shift came from some things, the morning community gatherings that they did that included the Second Step program as part of things they were doing to start the day. They also, he said that the principal's toolkit and the engagement by the principal and the leadership staff in the building were really important and integral to that positive shift. And then improved student skills, of course, also really led to that positive shift, which I talked about. Once they saw those skills diminishing, they realized they needed to keep going with them to keep that positive shift going. So some of the things that they saw in terms of positive changes, so if you're kind of thinking about how would you measure if this is working, how do you know if you're, the efforts that you're making and the, investment that you've made to do this is going to actually make a change in your school, and how can you really tell? Well, they looked at things like attendance, discipline, student achievement, and staff morale. So on my next slides here, I have broken those down a little bit. With attendance, they saw positive increases. That's exactly what we hoped for, that they were up from the year before even. So in year 1, they went up, and then year 2, they went up even more. So that was a really great thing to see. Staff morale, that the staff had developed programs to support each other. So they really looked at not just delivering Second Step program, I mean, that was certainly part of it, obviously, but that doing this work, that supporting each other was going to be really helpful, and they found ways to partner up and do things together, including Friendly Fridays and Therapeutic Thursdays. So being really creative about how they were going to be really helping each other do this work. The classrooms were calmer and happier, and teachers were dealing with fewer problems, so that can definitely make an impact on morale. So in terms of student achievement, they saw that they had increases in students' test scores in math, science, and social studies, and that they also, teachers reported they had increased instructional time, which of course also would really make teachers much more happy in their work to see that they actually have time to teach the skills and the content that they're supposed to and that they want to. For discipline, they saw that suspensions were down from the year before, so that's obviously a huge thing. That's kind of a big deal around the country right now. It's just finding ways to get those suspensions down in positive ways. They also saw that the types of incidents that they had changed, that the kinds of incidents that were reported or kids were sent to the office for office referrals were changing. They were different, that they were able to see fewer incidences of fighting and physical aggression that was down. So even though they may have had some office referrals, they weren't as serious. They were becoming fewer and fewer incidents around that were more violent or aggressive. So that is what we have to share with you today. I want to just give a really strong plug also. I know I talked a lot about making sure you know we have other webinars, but I also want you to know that we have live help that you can access anytime, that we are here to help, that, I've put our 800 number, our email on there for support, as well as the website itself. Our website, I think, has, I don't even know, just the most information I think I've ever seen in a website. So sometimes it's a little hard to find what you're looking for, and our staff here are definitely very well versed in what's available to you. If you are wondering if there's a tool or a resource that we have, we probably have it, and so we can help you to find it. We also have, our team of client support staff are far more than just being able to help you with logistics of ordering or finding the sample lessons and things like that. They are also former educators and people that are extremely invested in our mission, just like Juliet was saying, that they want to make sure you have what you need to get started and to do it successfully for your unique situation. Every school is different, and we know that. So our team of education partnerships managers like myself and our account managers can also really help with that planning and implementation, sustainability, as well as Juliet's team too, just being available to you, especially if you are kind of working on a district-wide type of initiative. Maybe your school is serving as a pilot, or you are on a task force or committee that might be looking at SEL. We really want you to give us a call in that situation, because we can do a similar presentation like this one and our others for you at a time that works for you if needed. So we hope that you'll take advantage of that and all of our other webinars that are online in the on-demand section like this one. So please call us with your questions. We really like it when you do, and we appreciate you so much. Before we sign off, Juliet, do you have anything else you'd like to say or add?
I'd just like to thank you for taking the time out of your busy days to participate in this webinar, and I hope that the information is useful to you. Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks, Juliet, for taking the time with us. Big shout out to those of you who are doing this work in your everyday life, in where your children are, if you're at a school, or otherwise. We know, again, we just can't meet our mission without you, and it's a big mission. So thank you for the work you do to help us to get there. I hope we'll see you online in another webinar soon. But if not today, then hope you have a wonderful rest of your day wherever you are, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, everybody.
Start today in this getting started today in this getting started today in this getting started today in this getting started.